The Brother ScanNCut is an incredibly versatile machine. In this video, the cutting of heat transfer vinyl is showcased, but it can do so much more. At the end of this video, there are examples of all the different kinds of materials that it can cut, as well as examples of how it can draw and write too. The ScanNCut is a sleek, compact, standalone cutting machine with an adjustable LCD screen that can be raised or lowered for your comfort. The front cover opens to create a flat work surface with two storage compartments for tools and accessories. There is also a storage compartment for your stylus, and the top tray provides a flat surface to store tools while you are working with the machine. There are magnetic clips that will keep the lids of the storage tray securely closed. There are two cutting mats applied with the machine, a standard tack adhesive mat and a low-tack adhesive mat. Then if you plan to cut fabric, there is also a high-tack adhesive fabric support sheet. The mats that are supplied with the machine are 305 by 305 millimeters. There are optional extra mats for larger projects that are 305 millimeters wide but 610 millimeters long, which is double the length. This is ideal for banners and larger projects like wall art. There is an optional roll feeder available too that is ideal for creating extra long designs for wall art and more. The auto blade holder with a blade in it cuts a wide variety of materials from 0.1 to 3 millimeters thick and has a black cap. Then there is a thin fabric auto blade holder with a blade with a gold cap. Then we have a mini pen holder for drawing and writing, plus a set of mini pens for writing on card and paper, and a set for marking seam allowances onto fabric for patchwork and quilting. There is a stylus or a touch pen that you use on the LCD screen, as well as a spatula for lifting your cut projects from the cutting mats. The auto blade in the black holder is designed to cut a wide variety of materials, including vinyl, foam, PVC, thick fabric, felt, leather, cake icing fondant, card, paper, and more. The thin fabric auto blade is designed for cutting thin fabric for quilting, and because the blade is not fixed and it swivels, it doesn't get blunt as quickly. To insert the holder into the machine is simple. You just make sure that the Brother logo is facing forward, drop it into the carriage and lock it in place. You turn the power on simply by touching the power on or off button. Once you've done that, you touch your LCD screen with your stylus and the machine will tell you that the carriage is going to move into the initial position. So we click OK. Now what we'd like to do is we would like to cut a design or a pattern on a piece of vinyl. So what I'm going to do is I can either choose one of the 1303 built-in patterns. However, if I would like to bring in my own custom pattern, I can do that simply by going to retrieve data. Now there are various ways of bringing custom designs in. You can either retrieve them wirelessly from your computer. You could also retrieve them by putting them onto a USB stick and then transferring the USB stick from your computer into the right hand side of the machine, and then the machine would retrieve the data from the stick. You could also use a USB cable connected between your machine and your computer. So there are various ways of bringing in your own custom designs. However, as I mentioned, there are 1,303 designs or patterns that are built in on the machine, and there are also 17 fonts. Now, with the fonts, you could also bring in any true type font simply by going to retrieve data and bringing that in. All of this is discussed in detail in the lessons. Let's have a look quickly at retrieving data. I have a design that is on my PC that I would like to retrieve. So I click on Retrieve Data, and then I would like to retrieve it wirelessly from my PC. So I click on that icon, and now my ScanNCut is talking to my PC, and it has transferred the design that was on the PC onto my ScanNCut screen. So now all that I need to do is say OK, and then I could go ahead and cut that. I can also edit it if I like. I could add extra things to this if I liked. I could also save this design, and if I was going to cut it more than once, I would like to save it onto my machine. So now it's saving it onto the ScanNCut machine, and it will give it a number, and then I will be able to retrieve it from my machine in the future. So let's go back to the home screen. So we touch the little house. And now we're going to go back to retrieve data, because now I'd like to retrieve data that I've saved on my USB stick. Now that is currently plugged in on the right hand side of my ScanNCut machine. So I just simply click on that, and then I could choose any one of the designs that I would like. Once again, I can go ahead and say OK, and then if I like, I could edit that. I could add things to it, and I could also save it onto my machine. Now once it's saved, it will give it a number, and I can go back to my home screen by touching the little house. Now let's go and have a look at the third option, and that is retrieving via a cable that would be plugged into your ScanNCut machine and into your computer. So then it would transfer it via that USB cable. I prefer just to use the wireless transfer, because for me that is easier, but if you don't have an internet connection all the time, then you can use your USB stick or your cable. Now, if you've got designs that are saved on the machine, you simply click on the machine, and it's going to open all of the designs that are saved. So there is the last one that I saved. Now, if I want to recall that, then I would simply say OK, and then I could edit it, add to it, and then click OK to go ahead and cut it. But I want to go back to my home screen again, go back to retrieve data, go back to the machine, and if I no longer wanted that design in the memory anymore, it's as simple as hitting the delete button. So now the only one that's left in there that I had put in just recently, along with all of the other ones that I had before. So you can simply scroll through them and have a look. Now you can also scroll by dragging your stylus up and down, or scrolling up and down with the little keys. Now I'm going to choose a pattern from one of the 1,303 built-in patterns. So I simply click on the pattern icon, and that will open up a whole lot of different categories. Now you can scroll down and you can scroll up simply by using your stylus, or you could use the arrow keys to go up and down. Now the first category, you're going to find all of your basic shapes. So any shape that you need is included in that category. Let's go back and go to the next category. This has got all of your pretty designs or patterns. Now each one of these subcategories has a selection of patterns in it as well. So if I click on that category, for example, I can see that there are a whole lot of different designs within that subcategory. So if I go back, I can go to the next selection or the next category, which has all of our little sayings in it, which are arranged in alphabetical order. And then this one has all of the days as well as the months in it. Then if I go back, I can get to my border category. Now you'll see that there are lots of different borders inside there, and they are very useful for lots of specific projects. And over here we have our 17 built-in fonts. So once again, you can go through and choose any one of those fonts. And remember, you can also import fonts, and that is described in detail in the lessons. So you're not limited only to these 17. So if I go back, you'll see that the next category is dedicated specifically to drawing. So in other words, you can write letters or you can draw them, and these are some fancy ones. You can also do all of the others of these categories. You can write and draw, but this is specifically for drawing. Now if I go down a little bit more, you'll see that there we have some more fonts, and then this is for people who like to do patchwork. Each one of these is a subcategory, so if I click on a subcategory, it's going to open up a whole variety of different traditional designs as well. Then if I go back, this category has all of the applique designs. So if I would like to applique any of those, I could choose those. Now because this Brother machine is compatible with the Brother embroidery machines, you can also transfer designs to your embroidery machine. Now that is also discussed in a separate lesson. If I go on a little bit further, you'll see that there we have some other categories also with some fancy fonts and some fancy designs as well. So you can scroll through and choose whichever one you wanted to use for your project. But I'm going to keep it very basic, and we're going to go back to our pattern category. And I know that the pattern that I want to cut is in that subcategory, so I'm just going to scroll down until I find it, and there it is there. Now as far as editing goes, I know that this is going to be way too big for the design that I want to create. So I'm going to just make that a little bit smaller, and round about 45 millimeters is what I would like. So I say OK. And then I would like to cut 2 of those hearts, so I set that. So there are my 2 little hearts side by side. Now I would like to add to that, and I would like to add a pattern. So I go back to my patterns, and this time I want to choose one from this category. So I scroll down till I find the one that I want, which is that there. And once again, this is too big, so I can simply make it smaller, and I need that to be about 95 millimeters wide. So I'll just scroll until I get to 95, and I only want one. So I say set. So there I have my word and I have my 2 hearts. Now if I decide that these hearts are actually still a little bit too big, I click on one of them and I say edit, object edit, and then I can resize it. So I'm going to make that one a lot smaller, and then that one I'm also going to make a little bit smaller. So now I've got two different size hearts as well as my word believe. Now I'm only touching on the very basics of editing, but there is a lot of editing that you can do here. You can also zoom in up to 400%. So this is very nice to use when you get to place your designs on your vinyl, because you'll be able to zoom in and see that they fit onto your vinyl perfectly. So the editing portion I discuss in great detail in the lessons video. But another function that I need to use right now, because I'm going to be cutting vinyl, is my mirror image function. So I'm going to click on the first little heart and I'm going to mirror image it. On the second little heart, mirror image it, and on the word, mirror image it, because when we mount our vinyl on our mats, we always mount it with the wrong side facing up. So that's why we have to cut our designs upside down, as it were, or mirror imaged. Now, as I mentioned, all of these other little icons I discuss in detail, because you can do quite advanced editing on your ScanNCut machine. So now I'm ready to say OK, because I want to go and cut these now. But before I can cut them, I need to load my mat and scan my mat so that I can see where my vinyl is. So let's go to that step. Now I have stuck my pieces of vinyl onto my mat that I would like to cut the various parts from. So now all that I have to do is load the mat. So I just pop the mat in between the guides, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press load the mat. So now the machine will load the mat for me. Now that the mat is loaded, we're going to ask the machine to scan the mat so that it will show us where the vinyl is on the mat, so that we can drag and drop our designs onto the vinyl. So now it's currently scanning the mat. Now we can see the pieces of vinyl and where they are on the mat, and now we're going to drag and drop the designs onto the different color vinyl that we would like to cut them from. Now here we can see our designs and we can drag and drop them to where they need to be. But one nice feature that I just want to show you is that if you go into the settings of the machine, you can ask the machine to show you the vinyl as a darker image. So say for example I was using a light, very very light colored vinyl, and I wasn't really able to see it that nicely, I could turn that feature on to show a darker version. So if I go there now, you'll see it's showing the vinyl as a much darker version. However, it's a bit dark for this particular project, so I'm going to turn it back to the lighter version. So now it's easy for me to see where the vinyl is, and then I can drag and drop these designs to where they need to be. So I'm first of all going to just drag the believe out of the way, because I want the one heart to be cut from that vinyl there. I want that little heart to be cut from that vinyl there, and then the word believe is going to be cut from the vinyl up at the top. So now this is where, if we go to the editing function, you can also go to the zoom mode so that you can position things absolutely perfectly should you need to. So that's all okay, and I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to just say okay, because I want to move on to the next step. So we say okay again, and we're going to select what we want the machine to do. In this case we want to cut. There are other options, but we're going to focus on cut for now. And then you're going to see that they give you all of the important settings on the screen as far as your pressure and your speed, etc. But the most important one that I'm interested in for right now is this half cut function, and it is on, and I'm happy about that because when you cut vinyl, whether it is self-adhesive vinyl or heat transfer vinyl, you always have to have your half cut on, because that means that the machine is going to only cut the vinyl without cutting the carrier that the vinyl is on. But if you need to change that, you go to the little spanner and then you're going to scroll down, and there you'll see your half cut function. Now, if I were cutting anything besides vinyl, I would make sure that that was off. But for now, it needs to be on. So I say OK. Then the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you that you always do a test cut first. Now, it's very important to do a test cut simply because when you are cutting something that you're not sure of, then you always do a test cut to see that your pressure is right. The cutting will be perfect, but it will just depend on the type of thing that you're cutting. You may need to adjust the pressure a little bit. So we just go and say do a test cut. Now it's given me that little red block to test cut with, and I can drag and drop that to wherever it must be. I can also go and choose a different shape if I liked, and I could even change the size of that shape, but I'm leaving it at the block, so that's all good. And now I'm going to simply press start, and it's going to cut. Now it will first cut the test block, and then I'll check to see if it's cut it perfectly. If it hasn't, I can adjust my pressure and then I can cut again. But if it's perfect, I will just simply tell the machine to continue cutting. So let's press start, and now it's going to cut my little test block. So the machine calibrates itself, and the auto blade has detected the thickness of this vinyl, and it has cut it accordingly. So now I'm just going to hook out the little corner of that test block that I cut and pull that off, and there I can see it has cut it absolutely perfectly. So it's cut the vinyl, but it hasn't cut the carrier sheet that the vinyl is on. So now that I'm happy with that, I don't have to test again. I can simply press start and let the machine cut. So I'm going to press start. Now the machine calibrates itself, and it measures the thickness of the vinyl, and it's adjusting the cutting depth of the blade to match this vinyl. It will also have a progress bar on the screen that will tell you how long the design will take to cut, and then it counts down as it goes. And there it's finished cutting, so we just say OK. So now we're just going to say OK and unload the mat. Now that the machine has finished cutting, we're just going to lift the vinyl off of the cutting mat. And then I'm just going to pop my mat to one side and just replace the protective cover on top of the mat. And now we're ready to use our little weeding tool to actually expose our design that's been cut. So all we do is we pop the hook in to the corner of the vinyl, and we're going to just pull that loose from the carrier sheet, and then we're going to just pull that all off to reveal just the design. Now there are little bits that are inside there that need to be weeded out, so I'll just pop my hook into there, lift that, and then pull that out. So there I now have my first little heart all weeded and ready to be applied to my project. Now I'm going to do the same on the word. So what I'm going to do is just pop my hook in at the corner and just lift. Now once you've lifted, you're going to just pull all the excess vinyl off from around the design, and then all the little bits that are left inside there we're just going to hook out with the weeding tool. So we're going to just go and lift and pull those bits out, and then we can throw those away. So it's as easy as that. So we're just going to hook one more little piece, and then we are done. And there I have my word that is all beautifully weeded. So all that's left to do now is just to do the last little heart, and then I'll show you how we're going to use those on a project. So here I have a pencil bag that I'm going to attach my cutout vinyl to. So it's as simple as positioning it where you would like it to be, and then taking a regular household iron and making sure that it gets set between wool and cotton. Make sure that the steam is off. Now theoretically you can pop your iron directly onto the plastic carrier sheet. However, I prefer to first pop a cloth over the vinyl, and then I put my iron on top of the cloth. Now you're going to hold that in place and just apply gentle pressure for about 10 or 15 seconds. And it usually takes less than that, but that's the recommended, is 10 to 15 seconds. Now once that time is up, then we are going to just lift our iron, and then we are going to remove the carrier sheet. So you just gently peel that back, and your designs will be on your garment. Now there I just missed a little corner, so I'm going to just pop the iron over that again, and that should have done the trick. So if you find that something hasn't stuck, you just put your iron back on there and stick it down. Then once that's done, just to make sure that it's really set properly, I just take my iron and then I press over it just for about 2 or 3 seconds. And then that just ensures that everything is securely stuck. And there you have your heat transfer vinyl securely attached to the project. Now let's take a quick look at some of the important editing functions. So if I chose one of the built-in patterns and I chose one of the basic shapes, and for example a square, I could adjust the size of the square and I could make it smaller by touching the minus key. Now this will happen in proportion, so the height will stay in proportion to the width and keep it a square. So I could then, if I wanted to make it larger, I could just touch the plus button. However, if I wanted to just adjust the width, then I could unlock the dimensions by clicking on that key there. So now just the width is going to be made narrower, and if I wanted to adjust the height and I wanted to make that higher, then I could do that. So simply by unlocking proportions, we can adjust the size, either just the height or just the width. Then if I wanted more than one of those, I could type in as many as I wanted, and once you reach the maximum number that will fit on the mat, the machine will warn you. So if I go and I set that, you'll see it has set them out side by side so that once it's cut, there is no waste at all. So now we're going to go and add some more patterns. And this time I'm going to add some triangles. Now with the triangle, I could make that smaller in proportion, or I could unlock my dimensions. So you just adjust it to what suits your needs. If I wanted to cut, for example, 5 of those, I would just simply set it to 5 and say set. So now it has arranged those triangles also so there is not a lot of waste in between. However, we can ask the machine to fine-tune that. Now we can choose to ask the machine to arrange all of these patterns either in a random fashion or to dovetail them. So for example, if I chose dovetail, it would invert some of these triangles so that they would slot in. So let's try that one first. So there you'll see it's now changed the triangles and it's slotted them in between each other so that there is no waste. However, if this was, for example, a piece of card that had a one-way design on it, this wouldn't work because it would mean that these triangles would be being cut upside down, in other words. So the pattern on there would be upside down. So then it would be better to choose the option of all of the pieces facing in the same direction. So now it's put it back to how it was originally. But I could also ask it to adjust them randomly. So if I ask it to adjust them randomly, you'll see it slots them in all over, and it's even moved those rectangles so that they are lying in a more economical way to fit in with the triangles. So this is how you can choose your designs and arrange them so that you have no waste when you are cutting. Now we'll take a look at arranging some of these sayings in an economical fashion. So for example, if we wanted to cut a number of these out of the same piece of vinyl or the same color vinyl, I could then go and adjust them so that they cut really economically with no waste. So let's choose a few of those, and we're just going to choose any one of them, and we'll just adjust sizes and say set, and then we'll just continue adding. And then say perhaps have 3 of those, and then we'll go and choose 2 more and then do an arrangement. So now I've got a couple there that I want to cut, and you'll see that the machine has arranged them all facing in the same direction. but there's going to be a little bit of waste over there and not much else, but let's see what the machine comes up with. So we can ask the machine to dovetail and fit the pieces in. So there it's now flipped the anniversary upside down as well as the adore and the autumn so that it fits in more economically. But I could also ask it to fit them in randomly. So if I go to the random selection, you'll see that it's going to arrange them, and instead of them lying in straight lines, some of them might be lying at different angles. So there you can see that one's lying at an angle, and then that one has been flipped so that it's lying at a 90-degree angle, and some of them are upside down and some of them are straight. But that is the most economical way so that you can save when you are cutting anything, whether it's your vinyl or whether it's card or paper or fabric or whatever you're cutting, that will be the most economical arrangement. So that is a very handy feature to help you to economize on the materials that you use. Let's take a quick look at some more basic editing. So if I choose a design and I choose one of the pre-made gift cards, I can adjust the size, and then what I'm going to do is I want to add a word onto the card. So go to add, my patterns, and the built-in fonts. Now I can use any one of the 17 built-in fonts, or I can use any one of the fonts that are on my computer to create words with, but I'm going to just use the built-in fonts for now. So now I can choose either uppercase or lowercase. I can choose just the letters as they are, or letters with special characters, or numbers. So we'll go back to the normal letters, uppercase or lowercase. So I'm going to make them all uppercase, and we're going to spell a word, and if I make a mistake I can just delete. And now I can adjust the height, I can adjust the spacing, but I'm leaving that as it is. So there's my word. Now what I want to do is I need to edit that word. So what I need to do now is go to Object Edit, because what I want to do is swing it around so that I can put it onto the card. So I go to the Rotate key, and I can rotate either to the right or to the left by 90 degrees, 10 degrees, or 1 degree at a time. So I'm going to say make it a full 90 degrees. Now I can see that it's not going to fit onto that card, so I can just go back and I can resize it. So I can get it to the size that I like, drag and drop it in place, and that's it. Now there are lots of other functions that are described in the lessons, like for example I can group these together, I can weld them. So there are all sorts of things, and then there are a whole lot of other editing functions that I describe in detail in the lessons. But for now it's important to know that you can use your resizing and your rotation as well as the mirror image for cutting the vinyl, and then also your duplication key. Canvas Workspace is a cloud-based program that is provided for the ScanNCut user to be able to create custom designs for their ScanNCut machines. It's completely free to use. There is a comprehensive video lesson provided on it, and there is an offline and an online version available. As well as providing us with a platform to create our own designs, there is a wide variety of pre-made projects that are available too. Now we've seen how we can open any one of the patterns that are built in on the machine, or retrieve patterns and cut them. But the ScanNCut can also scan. So there are various options. You could scan an image in, for example, a stamped image, and then you could cut that directly. You could also scan an image and save it either onto the machine for cutting later, or onto a USB stick, or onto Canvas Workspace. So the machine is capable not only of cutting but also of scanning. Using the direct cut option under the scanning function, a piece of gift wrap was scanned into the scan and cut, and it then cut out the separate images. A different piece of gift wrap was used to scan in, and then the scan and cut the separate images. Use the scan and cut to draw outlines, lines, text, and even color in with fill using the universal pen holder and regular store-bought pens, so no expensive cartridges would be required. This beautiful invitation was cut out on the scan and cut, and then the scan and cut even did the writing using a regular store-bought rollerball pen. Create beautiful gift tags and cards using the scan and cut and experimenting with a variety of different store-bought pens. So you can use your scan and cut to cut or draw from very large to very tiny, but perfectly every time. Here are some examples of different materials that can be cut using the scan and cut.